Sonja Marten is live for us this hour. She's Chief FX Strategist at DZ Bank. She joins us live out of Frankfurt. Sonja, just walk me through expectations for the ECB today. My last guest said a 75 basis point hike is already priced in to the euro. Do you think they're going to go that far? What's your outlook for the currency as well?
Well, to be honest, I am not 100% convinced that the ECB is going to go for 75 basis points. It's what the market is expecting. And I have to say, it's obviously what they should be doing because we have a lot of inflation. But the problem is that there's a lot of doves on the ECB Council, and there's some heavyweight doves like Chief Economist Philip Lane, who are very much in favor of a less aggressive approach. And while the market is looking for 75, there's still therefore a chance that the ECB is going to underwhelm today and deliver merely a 50 basis point rate hike. As long as they accompany that with some hawkish language, I think the euro isn't going to suffer too much. But obviously, this disappointment would weigh on the currency, which is already struggling a lot these days.
So if the ECB decides not to front load with 75 and goes ahead with 50, what does that mean for prospects of a recession across the Eurozone? Some saying it's inevitable at this point that we will see a deeper contraction despite what the ECB is able to do.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that that ship has sailed, so to speak. There will be a recession in Europe, and the question at this point is only how severe and how long-lasting it's going to be. There are just too many problems that we're dealing with at this particular juncture. Obviously, the war in the Ukraine and the massive energy surge price that we've seen, and consumers are really suffering the consequences and have reduced their spending, and that's going to happen whatever the ECB does today, to be honest. So it's not going to make a huge difference, but yes, 75 basis points might be a move that might trigger some more concern about deeper recession, but I think ultimately 25 basis points more or less in the grand scheme of things isn't going to make or break a recession.
Have to ask you about what's happening with dollar yen as well, because the dollar is really wreaking havoc here at its highest level since 1998. The top performing song in 1998 was Brandy and Monica's The Boy Is Mine, classic R&B jam about two strong women fighting over a man who probably didn't deserve their time in the first place. Sonja, your view on where dollar yen is going, and is there anything out there that can soothe the malaise perhaps as we track towards what could be 145 on the currency?
Well, I mean, you described it beautifully. It really is true. It is that struggle between the MOF and the BOJ going on. The BOJ that has stuck very, very stubbornly, I can always say, to its idea of a very expansionary monetary policy. There has been absolutely no shift away from that. If anything, to the contrary, they've confirmed recently that they could even expand monetary policy further should that need to be the case. And on the other hand of the equation, we have the Ministry of Finance and the government that are getting increasingly concerned about the weakness of the yen. The MOF has become increasingly vocal of late. There were a few comments just yesterday on that matter that they're watching the yen. But the problem is, of course, what's the MOF going to do? They can hardly intervene in this market and go directly against what the BOJ is doing. At least I don't think that would be a move that would instill confidence in investors and might actually backfire spectacularly. So I think we're basically stuck with a very weak yen. There is a new BOJ chief coming up next year, so maybe there's a hope for a shift in policy then, but I don't think that we're going to get much relief for the yen before that.
Also wanted to ask you about what's happening with the pound as well. In Liz We Trust, the BOE mandate in question, more bad news in the pipeline, you say? Yeah.
I mean, sterling really has been battered by a string of bad news. I mean, it was bad with Boris Johnson. It might be able to, it might get worse. We don't know yet. Definitely there's a problem here right now with investor confidence. The BOE is also very worried, as you just mentioned. Liz Truss has signaled that she might take a look at the BOE's mandate, and of course, touching the mandate of a central bank, especially an established one like the Bank of England, is a very, very dangerous game to play. And then on top of this, we have the fact that Liz Truss has very big spending plans, but very little information for us on how she's going to finance those. So I think as far as sterling is concerned, there's definitely room for there to be additional downside. And to be honest, at this point, if things go particularly badly, which they may well, I would not be surprised if we see levels around 110 in cable.